Welcome and thank you for joining us. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. Here we are during the holidays with Christmas fastly approaching us. Many of us have gotten over the tryptophan plug that we had during Thanksgiving. So today we thought we would talk about cooking for the holidays, how we can control our weight, boost our energy, and enhance our immune system during those gray days by using fresh ingredients without the use of grains or refined sugars or oils. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest of Soul Food Nutrition, Iris Brand. Iris, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, laying off those sugars and grains because I know they'll just put me into the grave, won't they?
Something like that.
Now, tell us about using grains. We hear that this is like part of the triangle, that we're supposed to have this, but we're seeing more and more that that's not necessarily true. What's the real inside information here?
Right. So basically, not to get too technical about it, evolutionarily, we were not really designed to eat grains and refined sugars. And so what happens is many people are getting certain diseases which are actually related to, directly related to the amount of refined grains and sugars that we eat because the body doesn't have the right system to be able to process them in a way which is efficient. And so what happens is, unfortunately, the refined grains and sugars can, store excess fat and also very dramatically influence the insulin levels, which are blood sugar levels, basically. And yeah, it's just very detrimental to the overall health and immune system, actually.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds to me like, we kind of want to stay away from these things because they really have an effect on our weight and energy levels, immune system, things like that, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Now, how is it? Does it cause inflammation or what goes on? The body just has a hard time breaking it down, digesting it? What goes on there?
That's a very good question. So what happens is, in terms of inflammation, yes, sugar and grains are very inflammatory as well as refined oils. So basically what happens in terms of the processing is that our body has a particular hormone called insulin. And insulin, in a nutshell, signals the body to take the food which we've digested, which is in our small intestine, takes those sugars from a grain or sugar that we eat, and it helps it to get delivered to a cell so that the blood sugar is no longer left in the blood. It's now delivered to a cell. But unfortunately, what happens is insulin can only work on so many of these sugars. So if our body is again and again and again and again bombarded by sugars and grains, especially refined ones, the insulin can get almost short-circuited, and so what happens is actually the insulin is desensitized and not able to signal that cell to take in that sugar, and so the blood is left with the sugar, which can cause all sorts of issues in the body in terms of, again, energy levels, weight gain, storing that as now fat, as well as kind of like shaking and trembling and, those kind of rise and crash of the energy levels.
Okay, yeah, that's what makes the gray days even grayer, it sounds like. So now tell us about the refined grains and sugars. Where will people find most of these things? It sounds like you'd find a lot of this in processed food.
Yes, exactly. So you're going to find it mostly in, again, as you mentioned, processed foods, pastries, breads, sweets, something that you'd think of kind of automatically, but as well as a lot of times soups and other foods which we don't expect, they do actually add sugars. For example, when you go out to a restaurant and you notice something tastes very, very good, oftentimes because they add a lot of extra sugar, fat, and salt, as well as, flour and refined white flour and stuff like that. So what happens is, a lot of times it's kind of in hidden areas that we wouldn't even expect. So of course it is in those expected places like the sweets and the pastries, but there are many other
the things that people lay out all over the table, like the Ritz crackers and so forth.
right, crackers and cookies and chips, and but even the thing is that even it's in things that many people are believing are healthy. So unfortunately, bread, many times a bread will say 100% whole wheat, but when you flip it over, actually it doesn't need to be 100% whole wheat. In order to be considered a whole wheat bread, it really only actually needs to have, it only needs to have 50%
Really?
whole wheat. Yeah, so the other time, so you look at it and it was like enriched, whole grain, flour, and what will happen is they'll actually add in back those vitamins and minerals because it's been stripped already. So it was once a whole grain, but now it's not anymore. So that's unfortunate, because what happens when the grain is stripped of its nutrients and its fiber and its bran, that's one of the biggest issues with the blood sugars, is that actually the blood sugars are influenced even more when there's no fiber, because the fiber helps to slow down that digestion.
Now, is fiber a good thing?
Oh, absolutely. So fiber, you want to get it from natural sources. It's pretty unnecessary to get it from, a supplement or something like that. There's plenty of fibrous foods in our world, but yeah, it is a very good thing, because what fiber does is it helps us feel full. So that helps us to, potentially lose weight or keep weight off, because we feel full. We don't need to eat, unnecessarily. But it also helps to slow down our digestion. So what happens is the food comes in, we have fiber, it's a bulk, and it helps to slow that release from the stomach into the next section, which is in the small intestine, where the food is actually absorbed. So actually it's a very, very good thing.
Oh, okay, good, because, you get so much information that contradicts itself, you kind of wonder sometimes which way to go.
Absolutely, and of course also fiber has the benefits that we've heard of many times about helping to keep cholesterol levels down and total, triglycerides down and all that. And it's because fiber actually just helps to really clean out those intestines and move things along quicker as well. So it's a very, very good thing for the entire body, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, you talked earlier, and you were saying, the breads are part of the refined wheats and sugars and things like that, and pastries, all these things most people would have spread out across their tables. They receive guests for the holidays.
Yeah.
If that's no longer on the table, so to speak, if we follow this, then what kinds of comfort food would be a good thing to have for people during the holidays?
That is an extremely good question. So, yeah, we don't want to deprive anybody. That's definitely not the goal of this. As much as anybody else, I'm completely into comfort food. It's just recreating those comfort foods that we enjoy in a more healthy and hearty and beneficial for the body kind of way. So, for example, making things like, crisps, like berry and apple crisps, and all sorts of, even like pies and pastries, but actually instead of using white flour and white sugar and margarine or something like that, you can actually use whole ingredients, and you can either make your own or purchase things like hazelnut flour and almond flour and coconut flour, and actually all of these things were used before we started using those refined grain flours. We actually, many cultures around the world did use nut flours for baking. So you can actually recreate many of the similar recipes that we are interested in, and use whole ingredients.
And if you got a tree out in the yard that throws acorns all over the place, use that, right?
Yeah, I wish acorns were edible, actually, to tell you the truth.
Well, I understand that you can make an acorn flour, though.
Really? Yeah. Well, I did not know about that.
As I was growing up and you're out there learning to survive in the wild, that acorns, that you could actually do whatever it is you do. I've never made it myself, but I always found that intriguing. Yeah. Now, how about desserts here? So it sounds to me like we can have all that other stuff, too. It's just a matter of just changing the ingredients to be going in a better direction.
Exactly. Yeah. So usually for the base, I will use something like eggs, like free-range organic eggs, as well as like some raw honey, all of the spices, warming spices for the winter, so cinnamon and clove and nutmeg, and all of those are very stimulating, very warming, very good for energy levels, and just feeling, warm. I mean, that's something that's very important, of course, here in Oregon, and also just kind of cheerful and comfort, comfortable. So, basically like spices and eggs and raw honey and, like a virgin coconut oil or like a pastured butter, something like that. Many people think that butter is very negative to the body, but actually it can be very healthy depending on how the cows were raised and how the butter was processed. So again, we don't want to eat a whole stick of it, but it actually can be part of a very healthy diet, and much, much, much better over margarine, which is extremely processed and often contains.
Well, it certainly is used quite a bit in French recipes, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I remember reading something when it came to the comparison of margarine and butter that you could actually leave butter out and it would never do or margarine out and it would never do a lot of these different things, and even rats wouldn't eat it. So I found that kind of unusual.
Right. Well, that is very true. Margarine is actually so processed that it is only like one molecule away from plastic. So if you want to eat plastic, go for
Wrap
it. But
Christmas
nothing
presents in it, but don't cook with it. Yeah,
right.
Now, a lot of times, too, it's really important for people to eat seasonally, and since we're into the fall and the winter, you tend to see a lot more squashes, so to speak, and you were talking about warming foods. Yeah. There's a lot of creative ways that you can work with stuff like that.
That is definitely true. So squash is one of those magical foods because it is a little starchy, of course, but it's a good kind of starch, a lot of fiber, a lot of A vitamins. Those are some antioxidants, beta-carotenes, and actually very helpful and very easy to prepare. So winter squash is one of those foods that is pretty much an all-purpose food. You can prepare it sweet or savory, or a mix, really, depending on your preferences. And there are many different kinds. So, if you can try one, you can try them all, and they all have different characteristics. So, for instance, there's spaghetti squash. Spaghetti squash can be treated like, in fact, pasta. So so you can make traditional pasta dishes, but instead of using the refined counterpart, those refined grains, which are negative for your insulin and blood sugar levels, you can actually use the spaghetti squash, and you just bake it in the oven with a little oil, and it comes out, and you can put all of the marinara sauce on it, or pesto sauce, or anything like that. So that one's a really, really good one to use, definitely, for a pasta replacement. Mm-hmm. And then there's another one, which is really cool. It's the butternut squash. And the butternut squash is really interesting because that one is very sweet. So, again, you can do either things with it. You can either make it into soup, kind of a sweet and savory soup. You can bake it. You can steam it, roast it in the oven, grill it. And that one also is very easy to prepare, and has lots of different uses in terms of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can, mash it or puree it with a little cinnamon and honey, and that's a really nice kind of sweet comfort food as well. And you can even make it into a squash pie. Ah. Yeah.
So, see, the whole idea isn't to deny people who think that it's time to, lose weight. They want to build their energy. It's just a matter of redirecting what they're doing rather than eliminating it. Would that be kind of a fair way to look at all of this?
Yeah, I think so. I absolutely think so. It's better if people feel like they're without, they're less likely to succeed because they'll be in a mindset of deficit. But if you're in a mindset of plethora and a mindset that, there are many options to choose from, and, this positive mindset that, things will improve, and the motivation and all this kind of stuff can be really enhanced by realizing that you have choices. And so the choices are really something which are incredibly important to realize and to very, very much so encourage. because then the people will feel more likely and more motivated to succeed in their whatever plan they might be trying to pursue in terms of weight loss or getting healthy or recovering from some sort of medical condition or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're also in a season that tends to be cold and wet and gray, and so people can feel a little depressed because the sunshine isn't around, and perhaps flus and colds and the like, they all come a lot more frequently when the weather gets like this. What can you suggest that can help with immunity and actually, boost the immune system in such a way where maybe you just don't get sick?
Absolutely. So one thing, that can go in a couple different directions. So I'll start with foods in which to include and then foods in which to avoid. And also lifestyle patterns too, because it's not all about what we put in, it's also about how we perceive. So for instance, what we put into our body is important. So things like ginger, garlic, cilantro, parsley, lots of fruits and veggies. The fruits and veggies have those antioxidants and bioflavonoids and vitamin C, which are all, of course, something we've heard are extremely beneficial for our immune system. But also, not just fruits and vegetables and all of these other immune system boosting antibacterial, antimicrobial kind of foods, such as the ginger and the garlic, but also foods which are very good for the immune system are actually like good quality, healthy raised meats, because the meats actually have particular kind of fats and proteins and also minerals such as zinc, which are very, very, very helpful to boost that immune system. So especially like the dark parts and the organs of chicken, turkey, beef, lamb. Those all are very very nice for the immune system, as well as the lighter parts too. But those darker parts are a little more concentrated in the immune boosting benefits.
Beef tongue, anyone?
And then in terms of what not to put in your body, so things that are actually detrimental or negative for the immune system are things like refined sugars. Sugar actually is something which is harmful for the immune system, as well as microwaved foods and irradiated foods. So, for instance, spices, which are not organic, herbs and spices. All of the non-organic herbs and spices are actually irradiated, as well as meats, conventional meats. And irradiation is a kind of radiation which is supposed to kill off, certain bacteria and microbes. But unfortunately, it also completely changes the composition of the meat and is negative for the immune system.
And that's why a McDonald's cheeseburger doesn't taste like a cheeseburger.
That is one of the reasons, certainly. So those are some things there. The radiation, microwaving, refined sugars, and refined grains even. Let's see, anything else I can think of? Well, in terms of, again, now getting into lifestyle, as we know, things we've heard about many, many times, it's sleep. And so, of course, sleep is something that has a huge impact on our wellness and on our immune system. And we do actually have certain healing hormones which come out in the evening hours, in the night hours. So it's very important to be sleeping in the night. So sometimes people with graveyard shift positions do experience extra colds or extra flus and other immune issues, because those hours in the evening, especially from about 10 p.m. to 2 or 3 a.m. are crucial to be sleeping, because those healing hormones are not able to come out unless you're sleeping. So getting to bed, relatively early-ish, as well as getting, that 7, 8, even 9 hours of sleep can be very influential for boosting that immune system, as well as if you feel like you're becoming sick, to make sure to, not overdo it and get plenty of sleep so that you can prevent it from happening.
Well, very simple and exciting stuff. So how can they complicate things so much?
Yeah, I'm all about simplicity. You know, I do think that it is important to not look at it too complicated and in a complicated way, because people don't understand what to do if people are trying to come to them with all sorts of directions. Really, it's pretty simple, basic um, needs that we need, but also, you know, we are designed in a particular way, which seems to do best on, again, you know, that sleep and getting healthy amounts of exercise. The physical activity is also very preventative of immune compromised positions, and you know, then the fresh food. So there are many different things that we can do. Simple, very simple things.
Especially picking out the right beverage to drink. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So in terms of beverages, there are many different options to avoid those unwanted sugars. So, for instance, there's many different kinds of herbal teas and caffeinated teas. You can even make your own by going into the bulk section of a variety of grocery stores. Carry bulk herbs and spices, which are organic, and you can actually, in a coffee grinder, just grind them up and make your own loose leaf teas, which usually cost kind of an arm and a leg. So, I mean, again, you could, of course, buy loose leaf teas and brew those up at home, or you could make your own. Or, you know, of course, if you're in a pinch, a tea bag also is can be something to use last minute or something like that. So teas are wonderful for this time of year because they keep our tummy feeling full. They're very warming, soothing. They enhance digestion. You know, peppermint tea, ginger teas, chai. These kind of spices are energizing, or herbs and spices are energizing and rejuvenating, and also very beneficial for the digestion. But on top of that, if you're not into hot beverages, or, you know, you'd like something else different, you know, you can make your own nut milks with almonds, or even Brazil nuts. Hemp milk is actually something that's becoming more popular now, hemp seed milk. And you can also make one of my favorite things that I've been teaching a lot of people here in the Portland area about is something called chia seeds.
Okay.
And the chia seeds are, again, keep it short, the chia seeds are from the Aztecs, and the Aztecs used them as their staple. So as we use kind of grain and wheat and stuff like that, they actually use chia seeds. And you can make many different drinks with them, so such as like a chia limeade, or chia, like a alternative milk with the chia inside of it and a little honey. And it's kind of like tapioca, actually. It's a little bit, it's like, yeah, it's almost like a tapioca drink or something like that. It's like little seeds which expand. They actually absorb their weight 10 times in water, with the water, and or some sort of liquid, and they're very tasty. And actually, chia is the Aztec word for strength, or Mayan word for strength. And so actually they're extremely high in omega-3 fatty acids, which are incredibly great for the brain and for the cells, as well as protein and a little bit of carbohydrate. So they're pretty much an all-purpose food which you can make into a variety of desserts and drinks and stuff like that. So that's another thing that I use a lot for making beverages.
Oh, right on. Again, like I said, you know, it's nice having you on the program because you keep the simplicity of things. You know, too many people are out there complicating, causing confusion, and then, you know, pretty much you're just being led by whatever the next thing in front of you is out there. Now, is there a website, Iris, that people can find out more?
Absolutely. So my website is Soul Food Nutrition, and the Soul, S-O-L, instead of S-O-U-L. So it's S-O-L-F-O-O-D, and then nutrition, all one word, .com. And the Soul actually stands for Sustainable Organic Local, and that's the intention of my business is to keep foods as sustainable, organic, and local as possible, and to educate. All the classes that I teach are also on those kind of foods and how to prepare and how to store and compost and all that kind of stuff.
It sounds like a lot of fun. Everybody should be engaged in something like that.
It's very, very fun.
Iris, thank you so much again for joining us here on the program. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Soul Food is where you can find out more. We'll also have a link on our website at beyond50radio.com, so be sure to capture that as well. We thank you for tuning in. This is Beyond 50. I'm Daniel Davis, and remember, live your day past halfway.